Hello, we are back here with command figures.
It's great to be back. And today we are tackling a figure who casts a shadow that is, well, it's arguably longer than any other figure from the Middle Ages.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if I say the name Dracula, everyone listening has an immediate image. The cape, the fangs, maybe a bat.
The Widow's Peak, yep. It's become the ultimate Halloween brand.
But today we're putting the plastic fangs back in the box.
We are, because the reality, the man behind the myth is, you could argue, more terrifying and certainly more complex than any movie monster. We're talking about Vlad III, the Voivod of Wallachia.
Right, and our mission today is separating that man from the myth, but looking at this stack of research we've pulled, it seems like the myth part wasn't an accident, was it? It wasn't just Bram Stoker having a creative afternoon.
Not at all.
Yeah.
That's the core of what we're doing. We want to trace how a 15th century warlord was, well, systematically turned into a monster. We're going to look at the brutal reality of his rule for sure, but also the German propaganda pamphlets that basically invented fake news to destroy him, and then, how modern media invented this whole vampire connection that isn't really there.
And we've got a heavy stack of sources to do it. We're pulling from historical theses from the University of Texas, journal articles from contemporary legends, some really deep dives on medieval alliances, and even tourist info from Castle.
It's a real mix, but it paints a fascinating picture of how history gets, how it gets rewritten.
So let's start at ground zero, chronologically. The name itself, Dracula. This sounds so spooky to us now, but back then it didn't mean vampire, did it?
No, not at all. It was a badge of honor. It all comes from his father, Vlad II.
Right.
In 1431, he was inducted by the Holy Roman Emperor into the Order of the Dragon.
Yeah.
This was a serious, high-stakes chivalric order.
So not some fantasy guild. This is a real military alliance.
Exactly. Its whole purpose was protecting Christianity and fighting the Ottoman Turks. And because he was in the order, the father became known as Dracula.
Which means the dragon.
The dragon. So his son, Vlad III, naturally becomes Dracula. It just means son of the dragon.
But I've definitely heard it means son of the devil.
That's a linguistic accident that happened much later. The Romanian word Dracul evolved over time to mean the devil. But originally, it was about holy war. It was a title of prestige.
So, okay, little Vlad is born into this holy war environment, but his childhood, looking at the sources, it sounds more like a psychological thriller.
Thriller is putting it lightly. This is where you find the roots of the trauma that really defined him. You have to understand the hostage years.
Right.
His father was ruling this little buffer state, caught between Hungary and the Ottoman Empire. A rock and a hard place.
So to prove his loyalty to the Ottomans,
he had to send his two sons, Vlad and his younger brother Radu, as hostages to the Sultan's court.
Just stop there for a second. Your own dad ships you off to the enemy as collateral.
And then, to make it worse, the father did betray them. He attacked the Ottomans.
So the Sultan could have just executed the boys right then and there.
He could have, and many would have, but he decided to keep them. He saw them as political pawns. But this is the moment. This is the fork in the road for the brothers.
How so? How did they react so differently?
Well, Radu, the younger one, he adapted. He grew up in the court, he absorbed the culture, he flourished. He became incredibly loyal to the Sultan.
Almost like Stockholm Syndrome.
Could be.
Yeah.
But Vlad, he went the complete other way. He resisted, he grew resentful, angry. He spent all those years studying the Ottoman military machine from the inside. He wasn't making friends, he was taking notes.
He was plotting revenge.
Exactly. So when he's finally released around age 13 to rule Wallachia, he's not just some young prince. He's a traumatized, radicalized warlord with a huge chip on his shoulder.
And the real conflict, the one that makes the history books, kicks off with Sultan Mehmed II. Vlad just stops paying the yearly tribute.
Which is basically a declaration of war. You don't pay the protection money, the mob comes calling.
And when they did come calling, that's when the Impaler legacy really begins.
It is. We have to address it. His nickname, Capet, literally means the Impaler.
Okay, because the details in the sources, they are gruesome. It wasn't just stabbing somebody.
No, this is psychological warfare. They would take a greased stake, insert it into the body, usually the anus, and then carefully weave it through the torso so it exited near the shoulder or the mouth.
And the disturbing skill of it, they avoided vital organs on purpose.
They did. So the victim wouldn't die immediately. The sources say they could suffer for days. He would create these forests of impaled bodies.
The number I saw was 80,000 deaths. Is that even possible?
It's an estimate, but it's widely cited. 80,000. Imagine marching your army towards that. The sight, the smell. It was designed to terrify.
And it worked for a while. But the irony is, who finally took him down? It wasn't the Sultan.
No, it was his brother.
Radu, the one who stayed loyal.
Radu the Handsome, they called him. He marched at the head of an Ottoman army, turned the Wallachian nobles against Vlad, and took the throne himself. His own blood.
That is Shakespearean. But Vlad runs off to Hungary. And this brings us to what I think is the most insightful part of the research, the politics of it all.
It's much more complicated than he was a monster, so they got rid of him.
Right, because we usually hear that the king of Hungary, Matthias Corvinus, was his enemy who locked him up.
Which he did, for years. But their relationship was bizarre. See, Vlad was famous for being cruel. But his neighbors, Corvinus and Stephen III of Moldavia, they were also incredibly cruel.
But we don't hear about Stephen the Impaler.
Exactly. Corvinus committed atrocities in Transylvania. Stephen did the same in Wallachia. These were violent times, yet they're remembered as national heroes. Vlad's the monster.
So why the double standard?
He was bad at diplomacy. He just couldn't play the political game. But here's the detail from the new research that really changes things.
It's a family connection?
Yes. The sources show Vlad was married to a close relative of King Matthias Corvinus, possibly a half-sister or a cousin, and not just once, but twice.
So let me get this straight. The king of Hungary throws his own cousin-in-law in prison for over a decade.
Well, politics. Corvinus had taken money from the Pope for a crusade against the Ottomans.
Okay.
But he spent it on other things. So when he didn't fight, he needed a scapegoat.
And he points the finger at Vlad.
Exactly. He imprisons Vlad and helps spread these horror stories to justify it. Look, I can't support this madman. That's why the crusade is off.
Wow. So the monster image was partly a smear campaign by his own ally to cover up embezzlement.
It's a cynical read, but yeah, that's what the sources suggest.
There's a weird footnote about him, though, after he gets out of prison.
Yes. A chronicle notes that he converted to Roman Catholicism, a huge political move, was reinstated as ruler, and, quote, did many good deeds afterwards.
Did many good deeds afterwards. That is not a sentence you expect to hear about Vlad the Impaler.
No. It suggests maybe a man trying to fix his image. But the damage was done. And that brings us to the technology that sealed his fate.
The media. This is my favorite part because it feels so modern. We think of fake news as an internet thing. But Vlad was the victim of a 15th century version of a Twitter pylon.
It's a perfect comparison. We're talking about the German incunabula, these little pamphlets. The printing press was new technology, and printers needed content that would sell.
And what sells better than horror stories?
Exactly. These weren't history books, they were merchandise. They took the real violence, which was bad enough, and they cranked it up to 11.
They painted him as this savage tyrant, the opposite of a good Christian ruler.
And they used woodcuts, early illustrations to do it. There's that famous one of him dining at a table surrounded by impaled corpses.
Oh, I've seen that. He's just calmly eating his lunch.
That image established him as a monster in the public imagination long before anyone was even thinking about vampires.
So, okay. Warlord, bad diplomat, gets smeared by a rival, turned into a horror story by printers, and then dies. Fast forward 400 years, Bram Stoker.
And this is the big question, right? Did Stoker base his Count Dracula on the historical Vlad?
I mean, everyone just assumes so. It's common knowledge.
And yet, the scholarship says, probably not. Not really.
Really?
Yeah, we have to look at the work of Elizabeth Miller. She argues Stoker knew very, very little about the real Vlad. He probably just found the name Dracula in a book, saw it meant devil, and thought, that's a cool name for a vampire.
So the entire link is just the name.
It's incredibly weak. The connection was mostly manufactured after the fact by historians and, filmmakers to add some historical weight to the vampire story.
The sources are really critical of that 1998 documentary, The Real Dracula.
Oh, yes. The work of McNally and Florescu. They really push that narrative. And there's this one specific myth they debunk, the idea that Vlad dipped his bread in the blood of his victims.
I've heard that one, the bread dipping, everywhere.
And it's a total manipulation of the text. The expert explains it comes from a medieval poem that was likely a metaphor about a tyrant feeding on his people, or maybe about cannibalism.
But the documentary presents it as proof of vampirism?
Exactly. The source calls it masquerading as historical scholarship. It's modern legend making. And this leads to a really interesting concept the sources call secondary orality.
Secondary orality. Okay, break that down.
So primary orality is legends passed down by word of mouth around a fire. Secondary orality is when we get our legends from mass media, TV, movies, the internet.
So because I saw it on the History Channel, I believe it's an ancient truth.
Precisely. It creates what they call a wishful belief. We want Vlad to be the vampire. It's a better story. So we accept the weak connections because they feel good narratively.
It's like we're rewriting history to match the movie we just saw.
That's a perfect way to put it.
And speaking of movies, the sources have this hilarious list of how far the Dracula brand has drifted from the warlord.
It's quite a journey.
We go from a guy impaling 80,000 people to Count Dracula.
Chocolate cereal mascot.
And the Count from Sesame Street, teaching kids to count. One dead body,
It's absurd, isn't it? The source also mentions the monsters. What this does is it diminishes the fear. The beast becomes a commodity. He becomes safe, a toy.
And a tourist attraction. We have to talk about Bran Castle.
Yes. Dracula's castle.
I was looking at the castle's own website. It's funny, they have to walk this tightrope. They know he never really lived there, right?
Oh, they know. He maybe passed by, maybe was imprisoned there for a bit. But it was never his castle. His real fortress is in ruins.
The Bran Castle looks the part. It looks like the movie castle.
Exactly. It fits the secondary orality image.
Yeah.
Tourists go there to validate the book, not the history. The sources call it enjoying a delightful shudder.
A delightful shudder. You go there to pretend.
You're on the Dracula trail, participating in a legend you know isn't true, but you want to feel it anyway.
It's basically a theme park of the mind, built on top of a very real, very bloody history.
And that's the story of Vlad. A brutal, politically failed ruler who was crushed by his neighbors, turned into a cartoon by German printers, and then into a serial mascot by American TV. The man is just buried under 500 years of fiction.
So, wrapping this up, it seems like the myth completely ate the man.
I think the takeaway is that Dracula isn't a person. Dracula is a media invention that started with the printing press and continues today. Vlad was just the raw material.
Which really makes you think about how powerful a story is compared to the truth.
It does, and it raises a question I'd love for you to think about.
What's that?
If the printing press turned a 15th century warlord into a monster, and TV turned that monster into a joke, what historical figures are we turning into legends right now with our current technology? Who are the Draculas of the internet age that future generations will completely misunderstand because of our memes and our viral videos?
That is a terrifying thought. We could be creating them right now and not even know it.
We almost certainly are.
Well, on that slightly ominous note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening. Do not forget to click like and subscribe and write your opinion in the comments section.